All right, I think we're live.
We are.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to our first ever Tons of Knowledge webinar series. We are super excited to be bringing these webinar series to you at least once a month. We believe that educating and empowering people is the best way to lead to generational wealth, as well as changing any of the systemic issues that we see in cannabis. We're super excited. We have some amazing guests here today, and man, they got a lot of knowledge, and we can't wait for them to jump right in. Just so you know, this particular webinar is powered by Rooted in Good, and we're super thankful for the Rooted in Good sponsorship that they gave us to be able to do things like this and educate the people. So much love, much respect. Hey, Javier, Spencer. What up, Luke Gavin? That's Owl's Oil right there in the audience. And so without further ado, we're going to play a quick video to just kind of let you guys know a little bit about who 40 Tons is and why we do what we do. And then we'll go ahead and get started and introduce our amazing guests from UCS Advisors. Is that good, Chris, David?
Perfect, man. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
Let's rock it.
Let's do it.
How do you absorb years of damage when so many of us have been burned?
Do we think that it's fair that the state can make $10 billion a year on this plant, but we can't pay our bills selling marijuana? Meanwhile, there's 40,000 prisoners still in jail right now because of cannabis.
It was all great until it wasn't great.
It's ridiculous that he's in there for marijuana for life. You know, they take everything.
I knew that if I created this movement, would be able to give to a cause that was just supporting the women that are left behind to pick up the pieces of their loved ones, supporting restorative justice.
As a husband and wife team, our hope for 40 Tons is that we get my friend Corvain Cooper out of prison. That's our first and number one goal. 40 Tons is the voice for the voiceless to try to free the cannabis prisoners.
Yes, that day is coming. That day is coming.
That's us in a nutshell. We started this organization, this brand, a couple years back to get our good friend Corvain Cooper out of prison from a life sentence without the possibility of parole over a nonviolent cannabis offense. And over the last 2.5 years, we've built this brand, and we believe that it's important to get someone out of prison, but it's also important to keep them from being out. And that's what these education series are about. That's what our whole mission is about. It's about empowering, educating, providing career opportunities, and being able to put that part of the past behind us and look to a better future. And so how else do we do that then? By bringing education and opportunity together. And with that, we present Tons of Knowledge, a webinar series. I want to welcome two special guests today. These guests are two incredible human beings, just good dudes. And they've been very, very helpful in helping 40 Tons actually raise capital. They are our personal investment advisors. And I'll kind of let them explain to you what the difference between an investment advisor and a consultant is. But man, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. David Cunic and Chris Vaglio of UCS Advisors. Welcome.
Thanks for having us today, Anthony. Really do appreciate it. And for everyone here that's taking time out of their day, thank you for taking the time to do that. It really is truly appreciated. So, so today we're going to go over pretty much the top 4 mistakes that people make when raising capital, so you can learn right away. Just so everyone knows, there's a Cliff Note version. This version usually is a couple hours long, and we're going to do a mini condensed version. So Chris, while I change my background back to what the other one was, because this is kind of blurry, we'll have you get us started and let's start jumping.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Anthony, can you share that the slides, please? Can you add them? There you go. All right, great. Yep, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, yeah. So we are going to be going over the top 4 mistakes made in capital raising and how to avoid them. Of course, as we go, you can, if you have questions along the way, you can throw them in a chat and we will answer them. We do have a Q&A at the end specifically, but obviously if there's questions that we can answer right away while we're doing this, we certainly will. So,
Chris, do you have visuals on the comments?
I do. I see them. Yep.
Okay,
I see all the comments to the right. So yeah, if you guys have any questions at all, drop them there. We do see them.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what we're going to do right now, really quick, Chris and I are just going to put both our email addresses in this really, in case you got to jump off early and you can't see the entire time. So I put my email address and you'll know what PMA is in a minute. And let's go next slide. Let's jump into this.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. All right, here we go. Boom. All righty.
So what is UCS Advisors? UCS actually stands for two things. One, it means use common sense. And secondly, it means use cannabis safely. We're a business advisory firm since 2017. So we'll be 6 years old this June. And we help a lot of both cannabis companies and also non-cannabis companies making their dream a reality. Because when it comes to raising money, when it comes to understanding what it takes to raise money, to find investors, to talk to investors, it's a skill set you need to learn. That's a skill set that we help teach. As well as Chris and I are also investors. And we invest in companies ourselves. So before we get started, we'll go to the next slide, Chris.
Yep, there we go.
People always ask, I always believe, who are you talking to? Why should I listen to this person? So really quick background about myself. On paper, I've technically started 15 companies in the last 19 years. I've had 7 exits. I got involved in cannabis back in 2001 in the state of Maine, where Maine got medical cannabis back in 1999. And I started my medical career back in Maine in 2001. With that being said, I've been blessed to start 8 cannabis companies in 5 different states. And we'll go to the next slide, Chris. Obviously, we all know who that is on screen. Ironically, he was at a conference and he found out I was actually a doctor of physical therapy with a second doctor in healthcare management. He's like, oh, Dr. David, my back's bothering me. Can you actually help me right now? So I go to get a photo, and what do? We end up doing about a 15-minute treatment session. But where I want to bring up this slide, what's most important is this. In the last 16 months, we've helped over 30 plus cannabis companies secure capital. We were voted one of the top 10 cannabis investor relations. Really unique is that being the top 10, we were actually the only independent one, meaning that, hey, I own the company. It's me, not some big corporate person above us. But what you don't see is this, is that in this industry, myself, I've lost over 7 figures of my own money in this industry. At one point in this industry, I was on food stamps. I had my car repossessed. I was getting evicted from my apartment. So I understand the struggle. Yes, it's kind of cool what we do now, but I've been there first, literally. So anyway, I digress, and I'm going to get emotional. You keep talking about this. So Chris, let's go and talk about you now.
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick about me, I am Chris Vaglio. I am the COO of UCS Advisors, and I am an entrepreneur and business owner with over 20 plus years of business ownership experience. I am a business mentor, and my background is in marketing and branding. I was the owner of a creative video agency called Gray Sky Films, and successfully exited that in 2020. I am also by trade a producer, director, and editor. I'm currently the president of the New Jersey Advertising Club, which is a trade organization here in New Jersey that encompasses a lot of marketing and advertising agencies here in the state. I'm also the co-founder of a professional business networking group called the Hudson Business Exchange. And I am a very avid content creator, and I'm a podcast host of 2 different podcasts. As far as industries I have worked in, of course, marketing, advertising, very proficient in video and media production, cannabis, music, sports, entertainment, technology, health and wellness, and pharmaceutical, just to name a few. And this is a picture of me and my bud, Tiramisu, who's the host of Trailblazing with Tiramisu podcast, which you want to check out. This is when I came on and we were doing some horror show reviews. It was a lot of fun. Check it out. So let's dive into this, because this is an important quote, and we love to put this at the top because this ties into everything that we're going to be talking about in this presentation and how this ties back and why Dr. David is holding up a PMA pin and has that "Do you have PMA?" So David, take it away.
So some people have heard of Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic book. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend reading it. But I'm going to take the time for a second to actually read the quote. And even though we usually encourage people, don't read your slide verbatim, this is one of the few slides that you want to read verbatim. So a positive mental attitude is a must for all who wish to make life pay off on their own terms. Nothing great was ever achieved without a positive mental attitude. So that's why when we sit here and if you are clients of ours, we'll say, hey, how are you feeling at the beginning of the meeting? How are you feeling at the end of the meeting? Do you have that PMA? Do you have that positive mental attitude? At the end of the day, I hate to say it, but it's one of these things where raising money is very negative. It's not positive at all. And you get beat up a lot. So it's nice to have someone that you can talk to that's going to have that positive mental attitude. That's going to give you that support. Chris, want to go to the next slide?
Exactly.
So here's the reality check. And this is a little bit of it being a Debbie Downer first. One out of every 300 companies that are trying to get capital for any business will be successful. Secondly speaking, people think, oh, if I get venture capital money, I'm going to be a success. Well, technically speaking, 80% of venture capital backed businesses go out of business within 10 years. It's not a very good success rate. People always ask, what's the equation for success? And there's two right there. All right. And what's really interesting is it's the execution times 9 plus 1 idea. Why do I bring this up? Is that when it comes to raising money, you're going to change having maybe 2 or 3 different decks. You're going to have maybe 2 or 3 one-page offerings. Not everything's going to be black and white. It's actually very gray because raising money is like a baby. It changes every single day. It's like a living, breathing organism. The other thing is too, is that in cannabis, technically there's over a 90% failure rate within 5 years, the first 5 years of a business opening. I'm not saying it's going to happen to your business, but I've been in the industry since 2001. We've seen the numbers and the numbers are there. Why is it over 90%? Lack of money, lack of proper planning, lack of proper management, lack of proper standing operating procedures, so forth and so on. And this is why we always say, you gotta have that PMA. You gotta have that positive mental attitude. Chris, we'll go next slide here.
Yep.
So the very first part of this presentation we're gonna go over today, and once again, as I mentioned, this is a Cliff Note version. So we're gonna go a little bit fast because we wanna make sure we leave enough time for Q&A. So make sure you have those questions at the end because we're going to make sure we leave at least 15 minutes for Q&A for everyone. Mm-hmm. So there's 4 major mistakes that happen when raising money. The first one is you get caught up in your valuation. That you're like, oh, my company's worth this amount of money no matter what. Well, I hate to tell you this. Have you ever heard a little thing called Bitcoin? All right. If you heard Bitcoin and you're here, say yes, say yes, Bitcoin. Right in the chat. Say yes, I've heard of Bitcoin. Or just put Bitcoin in there. Excellent. Why do I bring this up? Is that Bitcoin goes up and down every single day. That means your valuation goes up and down every day. All right. And if you're really caught up on your valuation, this actually happened last night. Chris and I were at a networking event, and someone's like, "Oh, this is how much money I'm raising, and here's, my offering." And we asked very simply, "Well, how'd you come up with that valuation?" "Oh, well, don't these people come up with it like in thin air? Like there's no professional." I'm like, "No, there's actually is a professional company." And companies actually give you a third-party valuation. So if you're caught up in your valuation and you really love that valuation that much, go spend some money and get a third-party valuation done by a third-party company, because then that'll actually show the investors that, hey, how serious you're really taking this. Chris, we'll go next slide. Perfect. No clear path for return on investment is the second biggest mistake. We cannot stress this enough right now, okay? Why do I bring this up? Is that I have an example here with celebrity chef David Burke. They raised money for a restaurant, which is not easy to do, but when they presented to investors, they had a very clear path of how you get your money back, when you get your principal back, so forth and so on. Why do I bring this up? Is that they're able to raise their money very quickly because they had a clear path for the investors saying, hey, this is how you get your money back. Why do I bring this up? Is that you'll be amazed how many people say, oh, well, look at our performance. Look at these huge profit margins we're going to have. And we're going to have all these big profit margins. And I see Chris laughing because we see this all the time. But then they go, oh, but you're not going to get your principal back for at least 5 years. The investor's going to say, wait, you have all these big profit margins. Why are you going to make me wait 5 years to get the money back? Well, and most of the time, people that the company's raising money don't have that answer. So
right.
When it comes to having no clear path for return on investments, you got to remember when you're raising money, it's like fishing. Okay. Are you going shark fishing? Because if you do, that's a different type of bait, different type of water you're going to go in. Or are you going after just maybe some bass in a river? Right.
Exactly.
And so be very mindful of who you're pitching to, because another great example is if someone's going to Benzinga next week, pitching someone at Benzinga is much different than pitching someone at Hall of Flowers or pitching someone at New England Cannabis Convention that was a couple weeks ago in Boston. So, Chris, did I miss anything there?
No, I mean, just to go back to that real quick and just to jump back into that, believe how much you believe in your pro forma. I mean, you touched on it, and your numbers have to make sense. A really seasoned investor is going to be able to look at that and they're going to do the math. So, as much as some of the numbers you want to have high hopes on things and all that, and listen, it's projections and that's what they are, but it still has to make sense. And a really seasoned investor will be able to pick up on that. So, just make sure that when you are putting those numbers together, that they actually make sense, because that could also be a reason why then an investor won't invest in you, because that's a red flag.
Well said. Chris, why don't you do the next slide for everyone?
All right. So basically a third mistake that we see is not having your house in order. And honestly, this graphic that we pulled for this slide, because we were looking for something that would really, kind of paint the picture. This paints that picture. If your house, typically your house feels like this closet, this messy closet with a bunch of things stuffed in it and falling out of it, that could be a really big red flag for potential investors. So this is what you want to ask yourself when you're putting this out. Is your house together? Does your company have all the proper documentation prepared? Right? You have to. This is like anything in life. If you're going to go do anything, you have to put in the work. You have to prepare. Any athlete that's going to go out there and compete has to put in the work. They have to do the training. They have to do the reps. They have to be prepared to take that field or whatever they're doing. And this is the same thing when you're in business and you're going to start looking for investors, starting to look for people to invest in you. You have to be prepared to do this, and you have to put in the work. There are no shortcuts. There's no get this done in 24 hours or 48 hours. You really have to do the work and be prepared. And, David and I always stress that there are no shortcuts to doing this. So the ones that put in the time are the ones that see the most success later on.
And also too, in the very last bullet point here says, are you lazy with your investment package? Why do I bring that up? Is that you spent the money and the time working on your business plan. You spent the money and the time working with the lawyer to make sure all the legal documents are done. You spent the money and the time with the accountant, make sure the performance is done. But when it comes to the investment package, you're like, oh, I'm in cannabis. People are going to give me money. I'm sorry. It's 2023. It's not that way anymore. Okay. Yeah. There's so many deals out there. Investors, you need to bring your A game. Okay. And if you don't have a proper data room, you don't have a proper one-page executive summary, you don't have a proper pitch deck, you don't have a proper 2, 3, or 4 year pro forma, you're going to come across as lazy to the investor. All right. Yeah. And I hate to say this, is that people, it takes a lot of prep work before we actually go out and raise money. And something we say here at UCS Advisors is failure to plan is plan to fail. And we have to remind our people, hey, I know you want to go out and raise money like yesterday, but you're not ready yet. Take the time, get your house in order. So then when you go and you're going to go raise money, you have everything done and situated. Because the last thing you want to do is you go meet with an investor. They say, great, send me the paperwork. And you go, oh, I don't have it. I need a week. Or, hey, I met you at Benzinga, and they go, great, send me your 3-year pro forma, please. I want to take a look at your numbers and we'll follow up next week. And you go, oh, I don't have that done yet. You need to be prepared. So that's kind of the food for thought. Chris, why don't we go to the next slide?
Yeah, real quick though, David, I do want to point out, just because I think it's worth just saying on one of the bullets on here before we move on, is the one bullet here where we said, is there objective data to back up your subjective story? And this is important because when we see a lot of times in pitch decks that we're reviewing for the first time, we'll see a lot of data being used, but it's not really backed up by anything. And so it's really important that when you're putting your pitch decks together, that whatever data you're pulling from is backed up. Okay. It has to be backed up, because any savvy investor will know, and they're going to ask you that question, and you have to have the real data to back that up. Do not use bogus data. Do not just pull numbers out of thin air. Get it backed up, get it qualified.
Very, very, very well said. And also too, if people say, oh, I can't find any data, well, there's a lot of publicly traded companies here in the United States as well as Canada where you can get data from them because their reports are public. The financial reports are public. And I'll tell you right now, don't use just MJ Biz Daily as your only reference. Okay. I'll tell you right now, an experienced investor in this industry is going to laugh when they see that. So do a little recon work. And as I said, like the last bullet point, don't be lazy. All right.
Right.
Put in the work. So Chris, I'm going to let you take this one for right now.
Yeah. So telling a story, right? Does your deck tell a story? And, listen, my background being involved in filmmaking and video production, right? Everything's about storytelling and telling a really good story. And honestly, that translates across the board. And when you're putting your pitch deck together, your executive summary, your pitch deck, it should tell a story, right? And this first stat here is actually really important. And this is true. And Dave and I we say this all the time. 90% of the time, you are not going to have the actual opportunity to present in front of an investor. Now, we will prepare you, and you should always be prepared to present in person because it could happen at any time, and you got to be ready. However, statistically speaking, most of the time you will not be present. And so that's why your deck needs to tell a story, right? You're not pitching on the first meeting and all that. Like a lot of times you're leaving your deck, you're sending it over, and it needs to tell that story all the way through. A great way that we talk about this all the time, and David says this, and it's a great tip, is that when you have your deck together, give it to somebody else who doesn't even know anything about the industry or anything that you're doing. And if they can understand it, then you've done a really good job, right? Because if it's told a really good story from start to finish, anybody can understand a good story. If they come back and they have no idea what you're talking about, no idea what your offer is, no idea what it is that you're doing, well, then that is a good piece of feedback for you by saying, okay, that deck probably isn't telling the best story. And if someone who doesn't know anything can't understand it, then guess what? An investor is not going to understand it either, right? It's not going to happen. So when we're going back and we're talking about too, like the different kinds of fish, like David was talking about, like which fish are you fishing for? This is why it's also good to think about 2 or 3 versions of your deck. Have some different versions because it depends what kind of fish you are fishing for. And it's okay to have a couple versions prepared, ready to go for that certain type of fish.
Exactly. And it's really important when these different types of decks that you have, people think, oh my God, I got to do a completely different deck from scratch. The answer is no, you don't. Like 2 or 3 different versions could easily be one deck only has a couple slides taken out. Another deck has a few more slides added in. That's it. So, but once again, it's about know your audience, know what kind of fish you're going after. So are you going after friends and family? You're going after someone who's never invested in cannabis before. So you're going to have to give a lot of background about cannabis. Or is it someone who already knows a lot about cannabis and they're like, hey, show me your 1 or 2 page summary. And that's it. That's all I need to see if I want to learn more. So know the type of fish you're going after because that's going to make a big difference overall for you.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And, and having, needing a simple 1-page summary, having all that stuff. And this goes back to being prepared, having your house in order, not rushing through the process. Like you want to have the best tools in your arsenal to set you up for the most success. That's the name of the game right here, is that the people who put in the time to work the effort, take their time to put the right tools together, will see the most success at the end of the day.
Very well said, Chris. All right, let's go to the next slide.
Sure. All right.
So the number 1 rule we always tell people is this: ask for help. Okay. The word free only gets you so far. And listen, from one entrepreneur to another, I know every penny counts. I know you want to get a lot of stuff for free, but remember the word free only gets you so far because it's like, and just pure psychology shows that when you do something for free for someone else, you usually just give them the bare minimum. You're not pushing yourself outside the box to think even more about how to help that solution even further along. Because when it's free, you're usually only giving the bare minimum. The other thing is too, is that there are a lot of shysters out there. And me and Anthony and Chris, we've talked about this. There's a lot of shady people out there that are saying, hey, I want to get involved in cannabis. I'm a consultant versus an advisor. And really quick, there's a big difference between being a consultant and an advisor. A consultant is someone that you hire to work on a specific problem retroactively. Like you have a problem with your website. You hire a website consultant, or you have an issue with your online social media marketing. You hire someone that focuses on that. While an advisor works with you for your short-term and your long-term goals while using a true multidisciplinary approach. But here comes the real kicker, is that they also have real life experience. So when it comes to hiring someone to help you with your company, ask them the questions. Hey, have you ever worked with someone in cannabis? Do you have any references? Or, hey, you know what? You can help me with my pitch deck, or you can help me raise money, or this and that. Great. What is your experience with raising capital with other companies? Are they cannabis companies or are they non-cannabis companies? All right. That is a huge, huge difference. So ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. Heck, I still ask for help all the time. Chris asks for help all the time. All right.
The time.
And it's just really imperative that you kind of do some due diligence on your own for whoever you hire first. And also, there's a big difference between business plans and investor relations, because I'll tell you right now, and as an investor, when I say, hey, can you send me over your information, please? Yeah, it's in my business plan. Okay, can you send me over your one-page teaser? It's in the business plan. Okay, what's your pro forma? Well, it's in the business plan. No, your business plan is much different than your investor relations deck, okay? Your business plan is much different than your investor pitch deck. Your business plan is much different than your one-page executive summary. I bring this up because there are a lot of people that go out and hire someone for their business plan, and they think that same person can also help them with raising capital and do the investment side of things when they actually don't have any experience. So, Chris, am I missing anything on this slide?
No, I mean, just to reinforce the fact that it really is two different things. Business plan and your investor pitch deck are two very different things. I mean, now you may pull some information from your business plan and put it into your pitch deck. Totally okay, but they are very, very different. So if you're speaking with somebody and they ask for more information about, your deal, your investment opportunity, whatever that is, you do not send them your business plan. That is a big no-no, because no one wants to read your business plan at that point in time. They want to see your pitch deck, and actually even for, start with your executive summary and then pitch deck. So those are why you want to have those in place.
Very well said. All right, let's go to the next slide, Chris.
Sure. All
right. So we're kind of ahead of schedule right now. So we're going to go over the 3 basic green nuggets of one-to-one investor relations. We told you the top 4 mistakes that people make. All right. So try not to make those mistakes. But now we're going to talk to you about the top 3 pieces of information, or green nuggets we call them, that we give to all our clients here at UCS Advisors. The very first one is failure to plan is planning to fail. So Chris, I'm going to let you take over the rest of the slide right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, as David said, failure to plan is planning to fail, and having a solid plan in place before you go into this is really important. So, and it's simple things, and this is where too, going back to the previous slide about asking for help. If you don't know the answer to these things, get help. There are plenty of qualified professionals who are more than happy to help you answer these questions. If you've never owned a business, if you've never started a business before, or if you just have questions because you're trying to figure out the best way to do it. But entity structure, what is your entity? Are you an LLC, an S Corp, C Corp? If you don't know what those things are, ask for help. There's plenty of advisors out there that will help you, trusted people. Proper management team. Who is on your management team, right? Is it, your advisor, your legal, your financial officers? These are important people that are part of your team, and they should be part of your overall planning. You were going to say something, David?
Yeah, I'll take over the rest of the slide, Chris. So also too, when you go and you're going to try to raise money, what's your 1-year plan, 3-year goal, 5-year goal, 10-year goal? Now, no one's going to hold you those goals and say, hey, this is your 5-year goal. Listen, what can happen if your business, it could change, it could pivot. Hey, heck, look what happened in COVID. Look how many businesses had to pivot. All right. And this is really important that you plan ahead, because failure to plan is really planning to fail. A great example is one of my companies, we were 400% over budget, 400%. And people said, how were you able to still raise money being 400% over budget? And it was because we communicated with our investors the entire time. We give them updates every 2 weeks, no matter the good, bad, or the ugly. And last but not least, because we get asked this a lot here at UCS Advisors, is, hey, wow, I never knew how expensive it was going to be to actually open up my own business in cannabis. So what's interesting is that 1 out of every 3 people we talk to here at UCS Advisors actually becomes an investor first, so that they can learn more about the industry. Because it's okay to actually become an investor and invest in a cannabis company, because when you become an investor in a cannabis company, they'll tend to lift up the hood of the car so you can really look at the engine, really learn a little bit more. Great example is out here in New Jersey and New York. Since 2017, 18, there are people trying to get their licenses, especially in New Jersey. While they're waiting, they became investors in other states and other cannabis companies because they were able to learn more. Why do I bring this up is that sometimes people think, hey, if I can't do this on my own, I must be a failure. And the answer is no, because maybe you being a business owner in this industry is not the right thing for you. Maybe it's actually being an investor instead right now, because there's still more opportunity. People worry about, I got to be first to market. I got to be first to market. I got to be first to market. The answer is no, you don't have to be first to market, because statistically speaking, when you look at states like Colorado, Arizona, even Michigan, when legalization occurs, usually within 2 to 3 years, you see a bunch of distressed assets occurring or people going out of business because they didn't plan ahead of time. So Chris, let's do the next slide. So we already talked about this a little bit. You want to, when you're raising money and you're talking to people about needing money for your company, it's about telling a subjective story backed by objective data. This is what's really important, is making sure you have that objective data. One, is there any evidence for what you're doing? Is there any science behind it? Is your dispensary needed by the community? Is it even wanted by the community? Who's your company and who's your competitors? And don't say I don't have any competitors, because I'll tell you right now, you say you don't have any competitors, that investor will say next. It's an automatic red flag if someone says I don't have any competitors, because it means that, one, you may not have any competitors now, but there's a good chance you're gonna have a competitor sometime down the road. So how are you going to think ahead to make sure you stay ahead of your competition? And also, too, where, as I already mentioned, there's publicly traded companies where if you don't know the information or the financials, go look at a publicly traded company that's in the same industry as yours and look at their financials. And you do a compare and contrast, and that'll kind of tell you what's really happening for that aspect of the industry that you're in, whether it's lab, plant touching, dispensaries. And last but not least, we always get asked, how many years of a pro forma do we need? And the answer is 2. All right. As long as you have at least a 2-year pro forma, that gives the investor usually peace of mind. Having a 3 and 4 year pro forma is also good as well, too. But you need at least a minimum of 2 years. Chris, I missed anything in that slide at all?
Nope. That was pretty clear. I mean, obviously, listen, we can go deeper. There's a lot more levels to this, but as far as, high level cliff notes, this is some of the most basic parts that you need to know when you're going into this.
Exactly. So, all right, let's do the next one. All right. So what is your exit strategy? Now, this is really, really important, because you don't want to be like a high school senior. And what does that mean, being a high school senior? Well, that's like telling your high school senior son or daughter, saying, hey, you're going to go to college? Great. I'm going to write you a check for $200,000. Go do whatever you want with it. I hope you go to college. I hope you graduate. No one's going to give their high school son or daughter, their high school senior son or daughter, a check for $200,000 and say, go do this. No,
right.
This is not going to happen. So don't be like that high school senior where, oh yeah, just give me the money because I'm in cannabis. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to show your investors how they're going to get the return on investment. Now, it might not be very simplistic, and you might have a couple of options, and that's all right. But you need to think ahead of time. And you don't sit here and say to yourself, oh, well, I'm not a sellout. Oh, no, I'm not a sellout. I'm not going to sell out. No, there's nothing about being a sellout at all, because we get that a lot here at UCS, where people say, well, I can't think of an exit strategy. I haven't started the company yet. It goes, yeah, but if you're going to go out and raise a couple $1 million, an investor is going to want to know how they're going to get their money back. So, Chris, I miss anything there on that?
Well, I think no, you didn't miss anything on that. I think what I just want to add on top of that, though, just to reinforce, just so people remember too, because it's one of the things I think we get hung up on from time to time. And this is stuff David and I have heard before. Part of the frustration with raising money is, when people say no, or I'm not interested. And I think what you have to do is just, first of all, you really have to remember that you're dealing with an individual and their money, right? This is their money. It's not, and it doesn't matter if you like that person has more money than God. It's at the end of the day, it's still their money, and they need to believe in you. And your job is to present value so that they feel comfortable giving you the money, and that they have a clear path of return on investment, right? So you always have to keep that in mind. So even if someone passes or says no, it could be maybe you didn't answer their questions, or this just wasn't the right deal for them. And what David had said is just simply saying, hey, I'm in cannabis. I have a license, or I have a license coming down the pike. That's just not enough. You have people who are excited and they're interested. So that's the tease, like, oh yeah, I like cannabis deals. I'm interested in that. Still doesn't mean they're 100% in. So just always keep that in mind. You're dealing with a human being that makes decisions based on whether or not you have successfully provided the value there for them. And they then clearly see the path for ROI on their money.
Well said, Chris. Well said. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So if you want to take a photo of this slide right now, because this is the gist of the basic documents you need to make sure your house is in order. Okay. This is very important that you want to make sure your house is in order before you go out and even ask anyone for money. Okay. Right. So Chris, why don't you do the one-page teaser, go over that real quick, and then I'll go over the pitch deck.
Yeah. So if you see to the right of the screen, what we've done is we've outlined the parts of the one-page teaser executive summary. And this just goes back to what we were saying earlier in our presentation about being prepared. doing the work and doing the steps required to be successful, right? So to give yourself the best chances of success. So one-page teaser executive summary, you want to have an outline of the company, a summary of your opportunity and your investor deck. Now, once again, I just want you to think about the one-page teaser executive summary, right? This is like the trailer to the movie, right? So that's not, you don't have to put everything in there. This is about the highlights. This is about the tease. Get someone interested in wanting to learn more. You don't have to give every piece.
Remember, you give them the one-page teaser, and then they're gonna say, "Oh, great! Now show me the investor pitch deck." Look at it that way.
Correct. So you want to. So these are just the bits that you want to have on there. Information about the opportunity, right? David and I have seen so many executive summaries. I'll be like, "This is great. Where's the opportunity? Where's the information about the opportunity? It's missing, or it's very, very vague." So make sure you have the information about the opportunity on there. The information about the potential investment. Right. Another thing that we'll sometimes see missing from a lot of executive summaries. Don't be nervous about putting that on there. Put that on there. This is the point. That's what people are interested in. Information on your BOD or adding your financial graph. Optional. Don't need it, but it could be something, especially if you have space there. Could be a nice little thing to get people excited. And just always remember, this is your first impression. Going back to the movie trailer, right? You see the movie trailer or the commercial for some upcoming show. That's the thing that's like, oh, I want to watch that. I'm going to be there. I'm going to buy that movie ticket. That's what the same concept is behind this.
And now people ask, what do I do first? Like, what do I create first? My pitch deck or my one-page teaser? And it's really your choice. Some people like to create their pitch deck, and then from there, after they have their pitch deck done, it's easier for them to create their one-page teaser. While other people, just the way they think in their brain works, they like to create the one-page teaser first, and then from there, they'll create the pitch deck. Regardless, you're not giving out any of this until your whole house is in order. So, and because remember, failure to plan is planning to fail. So if you notice, you can see our top 4 mistakes go over top 3 pieces of advice on what to do for someone. The other thing is that this is really important. Your pitch deck is not your business plan. Okay. Your business plan is technically your playbook on how you'll implement your business when running. Okay. So I cannot stress that enough. And the other thing is your pitch deck, if it's good, it's going to be your pitch deck for the next 12 to 24 months. Yeah, you might change your dates if things are delayed or tweak a few things here and there, but the gist of it's going to stay the same. So be prepared, or let me take a step back here. When people say, well, Dr. David and Chris, it's taken us so long to do our pitch deck and get it ready, let's just go. It's like, no, because this will be your pitch deck for the next 12 to 24 months. So do it right the first time, as we say. And the other thing is that, and this came up in a conversation on Monday at another networking event that I was at, where someone said, oh, well, yeah, I sent over my pitch deck to you, Dr. David. What did you think? And I go, who else did you send it to? And this person said, oh, I sent it to 5 other people. I go, oh, well, that would explain things. And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, I already had 2 other people reach out to me about your deck to me, saying that they already saw your deck twice in the last several months. They go, oh, yeah, well, I sent them my deck. They said it wasn't good enough. So I made changes and I sent it to them again. Then they didn't like it still. I made more changes. I sent them a 3rd time. I go, okay, so your deck is now getting shopped around. Your deal's getting shopped around. And they go, what do you mean? And I go, well, like Chris is an investor. I'm an investor. People talk. Investors talk to one another. Okay. So that's why it's really important that, like it says on the right-hand side, at the very bottom, this is your first impression of your one-page teaser, where do it right the first time. Take the time. You know what? It's much easier to raise money when you're fully prepared than when you're not prepared, because you're going to have what we call lost opportunities if you're not fully prepared ahead of time.
Yep, absolutely. 100%.
All right, Chris, the next slide. All right. So people ask, okay, how do you present to an investor properly? All right. We're just going to go through this very quickly. Once again, as I mentioned, it's a Cliff Note version. I know we're going a little fast. I apologize for going a little fast, but we want to get as much content to everyone here listening as much as possible, while still having plenty of time for Q&A. So the golden rule when it comes to actually presenting is, one, really simple. What's your background about yourself? Simple, easy. Don't spend 10 or 20 minutes talking about your background. Just be 1 to 2 minutes max. Like Chris and I did. We literally spent 3.5 minutes roughly in the beginning of this presentation talking about ourselves. Then we jumped right into it. All right. Secondly, what's your company mission and mission statement and motto? If you don't have one, you need one, or you should have one. Now it can change in time, but you still need it. All right. The third thing is, and this part's missed all the time, how much are you currently raising and in what increments? literally this morning, someone's like, "Oh, hey, Dr. David, I'm raising $500,000." I go, "Great." I go, "What are the terms?" "Oh, $500,000 for 7% of my company." "Okay. What's the minimum amount I got to put in?" "Oh, no, it's $500,000. "Okay. What about everyone else?" "Oh, no, it's just $500,000. If everyone wants to do less than that, I'll do a custom made deal." It's like, no, you're not prepared right now. You're not projecting yourself the proper way. Okay. The next part, which is really simple, you telling your subject a story about why you're doing your product, company, or service, and why it's needed. As we said before, back up your subjective story with objective data. Okay. Now, here comes this next bullet point, says the key highlights of your performa showing the potential return on investments. When you're doing your deck and your presentation and you have any financial information, highlight the key parts that you want the viewer to look at. It's just like Chris doing video production, where you're going to tell the viewer where to look. All right.
Right.
And it's really important that you can actually control that by doing a small little thing like highlighting certain parts of your performance if you'd like. So, all right, Chris, let's go on to the next slide. So I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for Q&A.
100%. And here we go.
Okay. So we talked about what the top 4 mistakes are made. We talked about the top 3 green nuggets. We talked about the proper way to make sure your house is in order. And we also talked about just now how to present properly. So this is the key things right here. If this happens, any of these, don't be surprised if the investor does not return your call, phone call, or email. Or if the investor says, "Sorry, not interested," next. All right. Right off the bat, there's no return on investment determined for the investor. That's right. That's the biggest mistake made. And if the investor doesn't know how they're going to get their money back, why are they going to waste their time? All right. Secondly, you have no objective data to back up your business plan or idea. There's plenty of data out there. It's 2023. I'm sorry, people. It's 2023. All right. That's why we always tell people you have to have that PMA as well too. All right. If you say, "I have no competition," the other thing is this is also paying yourself a huge salary.
Yeah.
And I cannot stress that enough, where we have some investors that we work with. The very first thing they look at is how much you're paying yourself for the first couple of years. And if they feel you're paying yourself too much, they say next. Because as a business owner, you technically eat last because you have equity. You're going to get profits. All right. The next one is putting all your eggs in the "I'm going to get acquired" basket. Statistically speaking, that's less than a 3% chance. That's right. Less than a 3% chance you can get acquired one day.
And we hear that a lot. We hear that one a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Chris, why don't you take the last couple?
Yeah, absolutely. Communicating solely through text message, and communication's a big part. People you have to find out which ways people like to be what is their preferred communication method, right? Some people, yes, all they want to do is do text. Some people want to do email, but most importantly, some people just want to get on a call. And a call is a lot of times the easiest way to do it. Get on the call the investor. Don't send 500 texts or 500 emails. Like, get on an actual phone call and get things done. But it is important is to find out how they like to be preferred to be communicated with, and do that. Don't do just the way you like to do it. Do it the way they like to do it. NDA, if you follow us on social media at all, on our Instagram or TikTok accounts, LinkedIn, we just did some humorous videos about this, but really the NDA, there is a time and place for a non-disclosure agreement. That is what an NDA is. It is not for when somebody says, "Send me your executive summary," or even your pitch deck. I mean, if you have a version of your pitch deck that has some sensitive material in it, okay, but then you should have a version of your pitch deck that does not have sensitive material in it, because having somebody sign and fill out an NDA for something as simple as an executive summary or, a 5 to 8 page pitch deck, something like that, that is a time waster for an investor, and also makes you look very unprepared or very unprofessional. You don't need an NDA for those things. There's a time and place for NDAs. That's not the time and place for it. Now, here's another video we actually made recently, which is your voicemail being full. We laugh about this, but it is very true. And David and I will tell you from firsthand experience that the voicemail being full is one of the top reasons why a lot of deals go bad. Because when an investor calls you and they'd like to leave you a message and they can't, and you get, "Sorry, this user's voicemail box is full," that sends a lot of messages right away to that person. Now, David, I know you.
and let's take another step further for voicemail being full, okay? It takes you 30 seconds to empty out and delete messages. That's it. And we already said don't be lazy, okay? Because people say, well, I don't like my voicemail. People call me. I go, great. Well, what if your text messages were full? Oh, well, I'll have to delete it and make sure I could get text messages. I go, okay. What about your email? What if your email was full, your storage, and you couldn't get any more emails? Oh, well, I'll go out and I'll delete emails right away so I can get more emails. Okay, so you can do that for emails, and you can make sure you can always get text messages, but you're too lazy to take 30 seconds when you're watching something on Instagram or watch something on TV and the commercial comes on to just literally take 30 seconds and empty out the voicemail box you have. Right. Come on now, people. Really? Because the other thing is this too, is that you come across as selfish. Now, and if your voicemail's full and I'm the investor and I'm going to go try to get a hold of Chris. Hey, Chris, I have a question about the investment opportunity. Great. Well, what if I call and go straight to voicemail and your voicemail's full? You don't see a missed phone call at all. That's a lost opportunity that occurred to you. Right. And we cannot stress that enough. And the other thing is too, this also goes then also where when you're at a conference, like there's been Zynga coming up and there's MJ Unpacked in New York coming up. Don't be disrespectful of someone's time. Okay. If an investor says to you point blank, hey, I'm interested, let's follow up tomorrow, or let's follow up next week and discuss this in more detail. Great. End the conversation right there. Don't be that person to keep going on and on and on about your company. Okay. Be respectful of someone's time. I cannot stress that enough. Or
don't watch into the pitch.
Or my favorite is, hey, I got to go in 2 minutes. Great. Let me tell you 5 more minutes about my company. No, I said I got to go in 2 minutes. Like I already said, I'll do a follow-up call with you. What else do you want? You know, I know you're excited and you're like, and of course it's your baby. Like it's your business, your baby. Like you're ecstatic and but once again, you have to be calm, cool, and collective and be respectful of someone else's time. And last but not least is the lack of proper follow-up. Whenever you say you're going to follow up with someone, make sure you let them know when you're going to follow up. So great example is, hey, Chris, I know today's Wednesday afternoon. When would be a good time for me to follow up with you?
You know, a really great time would be, let's set up Friday at 9 a.m. Is that good for you?
Sure. You got no problem. Now make sure, you know, it's just very simple. Or the person might say, hey, Chris, when you want to meet up, and he might say, listen, I'm really busy. Can you reach out to me on Monday afternoon and we'll set up a time then? Sure. That's it. You got the date, the time, when to follow up with someone, and just make sure you actually do it when you say you're going to do it. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So we made very, very good time. Chris, I'll let you talk about the quiz, and then this leaves us 15 minutes for Q&A, which is perfect.
Absolutely. So for those of you watching live right now, or if you're watching a replay of this, once again, thank you all for your time. We actually developed a quiz to let you know if you're ready to pitch to investors. So basically it takes a lot of the points of this presentation, puts it into a quiz format, and you could actually find out if you're ready to go. And on top of that, not only will it let you know if you're ready to go, but it also will provide a lot of helpful tips in advice on pitching and preparing your deck. So it's completely free to do. Honestly, it takes about 45 to 60 seconds of your time to do it. I would just scan this QR code. It'll take you right there, or you can go right to our website at ucsgreatness.com where you can click on the quiz tab and take the quiz.
Great. All right. Let's do some Q&A.
All right. Anybody have any questions at all? Oh, okay. Here we go. Here's a couple.
All right.
What do we got here? All right. What kind of due diligence should someone perform on potential cannabis investors? So there's a 2-part question. And what metrics do we use to evaluate the potential? Like, how do we know who is the right investor? Are there any?
Okay. So,
okay. It goes on.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch here. So let's do this. So what kind of due diligence should someone perform on potential? Sorry, everyone, my allergies are killing me today. So
both of our allergies.
Yeah, so my apologies, everyone. So the question is, what kind of due diligence should someone perform on potential cannabis investors? All right, which is a great question. All right, and here is the best way of putting it: is ask them this very basic questions. Hey, one, have you ever invested in a cannabis company before? Yes or no. Secondly, when do you plan on investing in a company? Is it the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter? And also, what is your average check size? You can ask those simple questions. If they're being really shady and they don't want to answer them to you, they're probably not a serious investor. Okay. So that's the most basic thing you can do. And also where, if it's like a fund, you can always reach out to other companies that have invested in a fund has invested in them. So it's another way you can do some due diligence. in terms of how you know who's the right investor, so without going down a rabbit hole, because we have other questions, we spend a lot of time here teaching our clients where, okay, you're not looking for a partner, you're looking for a passive investor versus, okay, no, if you're looking for a lead investor, that means you're also looking for someone to give up some board seats to and some voting rights to. So it's really important to know what kind of investor you're going after. If you're going after a passive investor or an active investor, all right? So let's go to the next question. Specific red flags we should be aware of that automatically disqualifies them. We already kind of answered that question about what qualifies them. We just ask the simple questions. Hey, what are you looking to invest right now? Anytime in the next 60 to 90 days if you want. So,
yeah, if they're being vague or just not answering directly, then yeah, it's a red flag.
Yeah.
How do we find investors besides attending events? What if we can't afford traveling to them and all money is going back into operations? Is there another way to fish for investors?
Yes. So
yeah.
Then after that, we'll do Luke's question next.
Yes,
okay?
Absolutely. There's Luke.
So
Sorry,
great question. And really simple one, if you need less than $2.5 million, we call that LinkedIn money. You can find that on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
There are more groups out there that help raise money. There are groups out there that help, let's just step back. Let's say you're doing a dispensary or grow or cultivation, I should say. You need real estate. Great. Go to real estate events. You'll be amazed how many real estate events, how many investors are walking around there. Chris and I actually went to a real estate event last week, met 2 potential investors for cannabis. Because they're like, hey, we did really well in real estate. And right now, the way the market is, we don't want to do any more real estate. We want to diversify. What do you have?
Mm-hmm.
But LinkedIn's a great way to really go find investors. There's something called your spheres of influence where it's 15 categories, and we teach you and show you how you actually know a lot more people that actually might be interested in investing in your deal than you realize. Chris, what am I also missing besides like the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
international,
with a little bit of work, you can actually find a lot of events in your area. I mean, LinkedIn posts events, Eventbrite posts events, Meetup posts events, Facebook. So, I mean, honestly, with a little bit of know-how and just sort of like using the internet, you can find a lot of places that could be potential places for you to go meet people in person. And then, as David said, one of the things we do is we work with people all the time, teaching them how to use their networks to actually find qualified investors.
Exactly. So let's answer Luke and Manny's question. And we'll go back to the question up top. So for Luke's question is that Luke, we've done raises for as little as literally $75,000 to our largest raise we're doing right now is $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that $500 million raise is actually raised that's going on for the entire 2023 year, where our client knew how much money they were raising and how long it would take. So it's great to have someone saying, I know if I got to raise $500 million, it's going to take me at least 9 to 12 months to do that, which is great. Okay. Versus our average raise that we probably help out with is probably less than $7.5 million. So, but hopefully that answers your question, Luke. If it does, just give us a yes in the comments if we answered your question. So the raises we're talking about is as little as, all right, Persa. Thank you, Luke. All right. So now, Manny, your question is cannabis biotech startup fundraising. You have zero revenue, but being approached by M&A. So the very high level answer for you is this. This is where you kind of hire an investor relations advisor to help you with this, to really see where your business is going and how it's going to grow and to determine if you should still go solo or do the merger and acquisition now. So, because sometimes what happens is you get what we call inventor syndrome, where you don't know how to do the marketing, you don't know how to sell the product, yada, 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 but you're the inventor. So something is better than nothing. And here's a great example. We have a client in Maine, young kid, probably like 26, 27, genius, invented something which we can't talk about, was originally going to go raise money on his own. Then we got him introduced to Johns Hopkins, the college down in Maryland. And with Johns Hopkins down in Maryland, they're like, hey, we like what you're doing. You need a huge support team. Great. We're going to take about 80% of your company, which our client's like, no, it's my baby. And I'm like, listen, you don't have the money to do marketing. You don't have the money to take this national, and you don't have the money to hire more people. They're offering all that and letting you stay with the company for the next 3 to 5 years. It might be time to actually say yes to the merger. And for that situation, it was yes. So Manny, shoot me and Chris an email. We can talk offline about that as well too.
Happy to do that.
Then going back to the 40 tons question before, Luke. When it comes to cannabis investors, you find it depends, to be honest, the kind of investors you're going after. The other thing is too is that you got to remember some of these investors are looking at, they're trying to give themselves peace of mind of, okay, have you ever started a company before? If the answer is no, okay, that's a yellow flag. Have you ever started a company and sold a company before? If the answer is no, that's another yellow flag. Okay, what's your experience taking a company that's maybe 1 or 2 employees to maybe 30 or 40 employees? That's a third yellow flag. That's why sometimes investors want 51% control, because they have that experience. All right. Mm-hmm. It's not always bad. Sometimes it can be a good fit, having someone have 51%. Sometimes it's not a good fit. It really is a case-by-case basis.
And that's why you have to do your due diligence too. So,
and then I just want to make sure we go back up. Is there a specific? Here we go. No, I think we already answered that question.
Yeah, I think we got that
one. Due diligence. Yes.
Yeah, I think we got them all here.
Okay. Wow.
Any other questions? Those were really good questions.
Yeah.
Those were solid.
Like, yes, you made us definitely make sure we had our thinking hat on. So,
thank you for your time,
we're so happy, and everyone. I'm going to tell you this: we're big fans of paying it forward. So, if you found this worthwhile today, and you like this, please go on our LinkedIn profile and shoot us a recommendation. Let us know you took the seminar and that it was worthwhile for you, because the power of LinkedIn is so huge. And I tell you right now, if you need less than $2.5 million, you can find that on LinkedIn through contacts and mutual contacts. So, but recommendations go a long way. Mm-hmm. So if you took this seminar today, you're happy with it, you liked it, you want to help Chris and I out. Obviously we're volunteering. We're helping out 40 tons. We want to help out as many people as we can here. Please go to LinkedIn, shoot us a recommendation saying you like the course. The best sites and companies to recommend for evaluating your company value, Luke, shoot us an email and I'll get you a personal introduction to 2 different companies that can help you out with.
Yeah, we've got some great resources for that.
Can you guys put your social media handles in the chat, Instagram and LinkedIn?
Yeah,
and what those recommendations we would like too on our 40 tons page.
Yeah, what I'll do too is for UCSs, I'm popping that in right now. You can get everything from our campsite.bio site. So I'm popping that in now. So that way, and all you have to do is click that and you'll have access to all our social media handles for YouTube and TikTok and all those great places. And then I'll shoot in my personal one as well.
Yep. And I just gave my LinkedIn one just now. So
perfect. Thank you guys so much for doing this. This was a ton of knowledge, pun intended. We really appreciate it. Just, as a recommendation from 40 tons, if you guys support our brand, then that, we try to work with folks that have the same mission and ethos as we do. And these guys are it. I've gotten tons of high value mentorship from both of these individuals. And it's been game changing for us. And hopefully you'll see 40 tons go to the next level over the next couple of months due to the impact that these guys have helped with us. So I for sure recommend put the stamp on these guys. And if you have any questions, you could always reach out to me. Where can everyone find you over the next couple of months in terms of events, if they're going to be at some of the same events you guys will be at?
Well, already in the month of March, I've already attended 27 networking events in 29 days.
Yeah.
So we will be at Benzinga in Miami. I'll be there. Chris will be in New Jersey doing some events. We'll both be at MJ Unpacked in New York. We're both going to be going to the Growers event at the Paris Casino in August as well, too. And then a bunch of smaller events out here in the East Coast. We'll be going to Chicago, probably for NECAN Chicago. We'll be doing events in Maine, New York, Albany, New York, New York City, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia.
Level up in June in Chicago. I mean, level up 40 tons cannabis career conference.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
we're
honestly,
active.
And most importantly, everyone, I'm gonna put my email address one more time. I know we went over a lot of information really quick, and there's a good chance you might have another question or two afterwards. Feel free to reach out to us, okay? And also, I'm gonna be very frank here. Feel free to show other people that are raising money our self-assessment quiz, okay? the self-assessment quiz we have on our website is to help you, the entrepreneur, say, okay, am I ready to go out and raise money? Because remember, you have one shot, one opportunity. Come on, like 8 Mile and Eminem, all right? Because what happens is that you want to make sure you put your best foot forward, because the biggest mistake we have is people go out and raise money too soon. Then they go back 6 months later and say, oh, well, I redid my deck and I redid this and that. You want to look at it now? It's like, no, because you should have done it right the first time. So
Right.
I cannot stress that enough. And honestly, Anthony and 40 Tons and L'Oreal, I know I'll see y'all in Miami in a couple of weeks. But I just want to say thank you once again for trusting UCS Advisors and trusting us to help you, and trusting us and giving us the platform to teach and educate people about the top mistakes to avoid when raising capital. So I appreciate 40 Tons and what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Yep. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining Tons of Knowledge, Avoiding Costly Mistakes, Essential Strategies for Fundraising in the Cannabis Industry by UCS Advisors, powered by Rooted in Good and 40 Tons. Thank you so much, everybody. And we will see you on the next one, April 14th, which is Cannabis Edition Nonprofits 101. So if you want to start a nonprofit, how to start a nonprofit, all the bells and whistles that goes into that, we have a great webinar set up for you by Dr. Sharon Elephant, who is considered the nonprofit plug. We will see you guys next time. Much love, much respect. Follow UCS Advisors and 40 Tons on all socials. Peace, everybody.
Be good. Peace.
Thank you, everyone.